It's Sunday, November 9th, and this is Cattleya baringiana. It grows very well for me, very temperature tolerant, takes temperatures in the low 40s in the winter if kept dry, and does nicely even when my summer temperatures get into the high 90s. And being early November, I didn't expect warm weather to persist, but we've got today and tomorrow, the highs are going to be somewhere 80 or slightly above on the Central California coast. So pretty remarkable weather for the end of the first week of November. So this is Cattleya baringiana, and it's very common in Cattleyas that there's a mutation where the purple gene is knocked out or suppressed, and you get a bluish coloration, which is known as the cerulean form. And this is Cattleya baringiana cerulean. And I think we've got 5 or 6 flower spikes on it, but just a really nice color form. Some of the cerulean Cattleyas I found very difficult to grow, very sensitive, not very vigorous, but baringiana cerulean has grown very well for me, and I really like the looks of this plant, coloration as well as vigor. I'm going to go down to the back part of the greenhouse and show you a Cattleya baringiana, Cattleya labiata hybrid, and you'll see the influence of another Cattleya on the baringiana line. So this is Cattleya baringiana crossed with Cattleya labiata. I think I've had this plant for about 15 years, and it has grown into quite a large specimen. I think there are 7 flower spikes, and unfortunately when I was moving it to this new location, I did knock off a flower spike, so it would have had 8. But you can see the influence of the labiata increases the flower size quite a bit, and the plant itself is quite large. So I'll just move over to the side so you get a feeling for the size of this plant. But it's a good 3 feet across and just covered with really stunning flowers. So that shows you that if you find a orchid species that you really like, check out some of the hybrids that modify it a bit. Sometimes you can get different blooming times so you can enjoy the orchid during other parts of the year when the species is not blooming. And certainly you can introduce vigor. Hybrid vigor in this case is pretty apparent. So I've got 2 more orchids to show you, and then we'll wrap up for today. And this is another good example of Fred Clark of Sunset Valley Orchids breeding program. A little larger than a semi-compact Cattleya, but nonetheless still moderate size. This is growing in hydroton clay pellets. That's a little Tillandsia with fantastic fragrance called crocata. But this is BLC Topaz Impact, also known under the Sunset Valley Orchid Code 7093. I purchased a flask of these seedlings in 2017, so this plant is now 8 years old after flask. And what's interesting is this particular plant has bloomed, and it's got another flower spike in the back, every year after about the 5th year. A number of my other seedlings that came out of the same flask have yet to bloom. And so I'm waiting. I think they're going to be pretty spectacular. Some were kept a little shadier than this one, so I think that accounts for some of it. But a few of them are in bright conditions, very similar to this one, and still have not bloomed after 8 years. So it's kind of the luck of the draw at times, whether you get a seedling with the right genetic component that will give you a lot of flowers, or sometimes you get what are called in the industry duds that just are very reluctant to set flower. But nonetheless, this is one of the really fantastic BLC, so Brassivola, Laelia, Cattleya hybrids from Sunset Valley Orchids. And we'll finish up today with one of Sunset Valley Orchids' semi-compact Cattleyas. This is Potinaria Loud 9 and Potinaria Higher Multiplier in Shocking Red. And I don't know if it's going to come through in the video, but Shocking Red, maybe Shocking Purple. It's a reddish purple, just fantastic, fully saturated color, and large flowers on a relatively small plant, which is what Fred Clark of Sunset Valley Orchids is aiming for. So great success in having large blooms, intensely colored, vigorous growing on a relatively compact plant. Well, another 2 days have passed. It's now November 11th, and one of my trick-or-treat hybrids has started blooming. This has a somewhat malformed flower spike. I'm not exactly sure how that happened. The spike developed much earlier than usual. There's another spike developing more of the normal time, but this one has taken an odd bend, but nonetheless quite a nice flower. And this is, here we go, Hawaiian Discovery and Trick or Treat Orange Beauty. And this again is a Sunset Valley Orchids hybrid. Their code 6716. And I really do like a number of their Trick or Treat hybrids. Trick or Treat has got some fantastic orange colors. For me, it blooms in February, March. So some of the hybrids bloom earlier. And very easy to grow, very temperature tolerant, takes lower temperatures in the winter, higher temperatures in the summer, and they're just all around a great orchid. So if you find trick-or-treat hybrids, I highly recommend them. And here's an early November surprise. This is Angraecum ditteri from Diamond Orchids, Peter Lynn, in the Los Angeles area. And this is a relatively small Angraecum orchid from Madagascar. Has a long nectary spur. You can see it twisted around there. But my other Angraecums, one was Darwin's orchid, bloomed in February, March, and it was just too cold, and the blooms always failed to open. But this one blooms throughout the year. This bloom surprised me. I didn't see it, the bud developing. It was hidden in the foliage. But just a great little orchid, stays relatively compact, will have multiple flowers. This is a relatively young plant. But thanks to Peter Lynn for recommending this at Diamond Orchids. It's a great little plant. And we're still on the morning of November 11th, and this is a Cattleya hybrid. Again, this comes from Sunset Valley Orchids. And a pretty remarkable flower. That lip is just like a huge shovel. I think if ever there was a flower that looked like a pelican, this is it. And this, I'll show you, is Cattleya discolor and Pescatorianthes, rather, star sapphire. So that's one of my Cattleya hybrids from Sunset Valley Orchids, courtesy of Tim Culbertson, who attended our last Orchid Fest orchid show. And there's another very interesting hybrid. This again is a Cattleya. This comes from Equigenera, and this is a hybrid called Warsabarkiardia. Gary Baker, I'm sure I mispronounced that. But this is from Equigenera, and just a really nice hybrid on a fairly small plant, thin leaf, kept in a semi-shady. It gets bright shade is what I would call it, but pretty interesting flower, I think. Okay, that's going to be it for today, and we're expecting rain in another 2 days, and may come back and do some filming in the rain if more things are in bloom. So there looks to be a little bit of slug damage on the spike to the left, and I'm not quite sure how a slug would get up into a hanging basket, but nonetheless, it looks like something has been chewing on that spike. So what I'm going to do is take my handy package of whole white mushrooms from the grocery store, and I'm going to place 1 or 2 mushrooms, at the base of the orchid, and then I'll come back tomorrow and see if we see any chew marks on the mushrooms, and that's how I'll detect whether or not there are slugs damaging this orchid. And if they are, chances are if I come out early enough in the morning or come out with a flashlight later tonight, I'll actually find the slugs on the mushroom and be able to remove them. So that's my little trick for slug management using grocery store mushrooms. Okay, so a few days have passed and it's time to check the mushrooms to see if I've got any slug damage. And lo and behold, this is very characteristic of what I referred to as bush snails. They're tiny little snails. Don't think you can see any here, but they are more of a nuisance than anything else. But what I'll do is I'll use some iron phosphate sluggo type snail bait, sprinkle a little around, and that should take care of the very, very tiny slugs. Same thing here. You can see the Swiss cheese nature of the mushrooms. Now here's one that is in my Cattleya persevillana that I should have repotted last year. Roots are looking not so good shape, but this damage is pretty obvious, and there's one or more large slugs in this pot. So what I'll do is I'll take my iron phosphate slug bait and just sprinkle some pellets in here. It's a sure way of eliminating the slug problem in that plant. I would come out tonight with a flashlight and look, but we're expecting fairly heavy rains, and I just don't want to brave the downpour that's coming, so the iron phosphate should do the job for me. Well, it's now November 15th, and we're having a pretty significant rainstorm today, and it's supposed to extend for the next 2 days. So much needed rain on our Central California coastal community. Did want to bring you up to date. We had a great presentation by Jason Fisher of Orchid Web from Plymouth, Minnesota, on fragmipediums. And as you know from my past videos, I've had a difficult time growing frags, and not so great at paphiopedilums either, slipper orchids. So Jason had some great recommendations, which I've taken to heart and repotted 3 of my frags. But I just wanted to mention that if you're not familiar with Jason Fisher, he is a breeder and grower of fragmipediums. He's got a number of really interesting YouTube videos out there, so you can look for Jason Fisher. And on his website, Orchid Web, he's got just some very useful information, which I found very helpful on teaching me what I'm doing wrong with fragmipediums. The other website that I should mention that's a great resource is David Sorokowski's website, Path Paradise. And if you just click on the growing recommendations for paths and frags on his website, you'll get more very useful information. So Jason had said that the only time you really need to keep frags in standing water is after the root system has thoroughly developed. That juvenile plant standing in standing water, which I had been doing, really inhibits their development. So he also suggested moisture retentive media with good aeration. And the way you can achieve that is through semi-hydroponics. And I'll show you a series of slides that I took as I repotted these plants. But just to give you an idea, this is semi-hydroponic growing in hydroton clay pellets. There is move over here to the side, a small hole about 1 inch from the bottom. And that allows 1 inch of water in the bottom of the container, which keeps the hydroton moist. The air spaces allow good root aeration, and hopefully this will do a good job of promoting very active root growth and subsequent top growth of my fragmipediums. Now this one is Ivan Portilla, and it's done quite well in spite of my lack of ability to properly. We can't focus on that too well, but it's Ivan Portilla of Equigenera. But my other 2 hadn't done very well, so now hopefully in hydroton they will do much better. You can see the roots, and we'll keep an eye on those and see how they develop. But thank you, Jason Fisher, for helping me grow better frags. And I'll just move down the greenhouse and show you my star Paphiopedilum. This is a Paphiopedilum maude. And as I mentioned in the previous video, it's got 5 flower spikes. So in spite of the fact that I don't think I grow paphs too well, this one has done exceedingly well, and Paphiopedilum maude is a great beginner's paph, because even I can grow it well. And as you can hear, the rain is coming down pretty strong outside, and I'm going to just put a couple of the photos in that I took while I was repotting the fragmipediums, and show you exactly how I went about repotting those. Okay, so here's our 3 repotted fragmipediums, and last one. And the idea with hydroponics is you pour water in the container, it fills up to where you've drilled the holes, drains down, and there's always a reservoir now of about 1 inch of water in the bottom of the container. According to Jason Fisher, about once a week you need to top them off as water evaporates and the plant uses the moisture. But that keeps the root zone moist but well aerated. I've moved them to a little brighter location now in the greenhouse, and we'll keep checking on these and see if they do well. But thank you, Jason Fisher, for helping me with my fragmipediums. And we'll just go back to Fragmipedium Ivan Portia for a second. Very odd coincidence. I've watched 2 YouTube videos in the last day, and both of them featured a booth of equigenera at various orchid shows, and lo and behold, who was manning the equigenera booth but Ivan Portia. So let me just put in a quick photo of Ivan so you know who this orchid was named after. And I'll just finish this out with another shot of Topaz Impact from Sunset Valley Orchids. Just a great looking orchid, and I thought you'd enjoy listening to what the sound of the rain is. It's really started coming down pretty heavy, and it's just a fun time to be in the greenhouse, listening to the rain and enjoying the blooms. But before I go out into the rain, let me just show you one last orchid that started blooming. This is Fred Clarkeria, Kelly Longley. And it has got some very dark pendulous flowers. Last year I think we had 2 or 3 spikes, this year 4 spikes. In the Cattleya hybrid area, this is from Fred Clark's breeding program at Sunset Valley Orchids. These do go dormant in the winter, so you don't be too concerned when the leaves start yellowing. That's what you want to see. You reduce watering, reduce fertilizer, actually eliminate water and fertilizer. And these pendulous spikes start to develop, and these flowers will last probably for 2 months. But this is the genus that Fred Clark developed a few years back, and we'll just pull the tag out here, so hopefully we can focus on it. And this is Fred Clarkeria, Kelly Longley, but really fantastic dark flowers. After Midnight is one of his darkest, and it's actually described as a black orchid. But this one is not too shabby, comes pretty close to being the dark black that Fred Clarkeria is known for. So hope you enjoy, and I'm going to run out into the rain, and we'll end this video for now. It's now Thursday, November 27th, Thanksgiving, and it's an important day in the greenhouse because Thanksgiving is the time when orchids that require a dry winter rest go into their dry winter rest period. So this is the Repotting Maude. Now the 5th bloom is open. We'll just take a quick walk. This is the Cattleya baringiana hybrid that is doing, I'd say, quite well. But what I've done over the last week is moved all of my orchids that require a dry winter rest to the front side of the greenhouse, which gets southern and somewhat western exposure, so it's brighter, and I'll know to only mist these orchids about once a week. And if you're interested in growing orchids that require a dry winter rest, I do have a video that's had an amazing 12,000 views over the last 2 years, and it's entitled Dendrobiums Requiring a Dry Winter Rest, and it's on the 5 Cities YouTube channel, which I believe you're currently looking at. So these are all of my dendrobiums. There's a few cataseums, Clarkerias, that require very dry conditions. They will get misted, as I said, about once a week, just to keep them from completely desiccating. But they come from areas of the Himalayas, Mexico, Central America, that are in mountain areas that are bright in the winter, but very little rain. Especially the Himalayas, all of the rain is from, say, May to September. So no fertilizer, no water, misting, and this will happen until Valentine's Day, February 14th. And it's critical for some of these orchids for the last 2 weeks. So the first 2 weeks of February, they don't even get misting. They just maintain complete dryness. And what will happen then is after February 14th, I'll start watering gradually at first and then more intensely. And flower spikes will start to emerge, and these will just be gorgeous plants flowering in the April, May, June timeframe. And if you don't give them the dry winter rest, they continue to grow slightly through the winter. It depletes their food reserves, and you get very poor blooms. You may get some khaki development instead of flower bud development, and in general, the plants will go into decline. So we'll just take a quick look through the greenhouse to end this video for November. Here's my Brassia again, which I've mentioned has been in bloom just about every month for this last year. Cattleya baringiana, the species. Baringiana cerulean, the blue version of Cattleya baringiana. I don't know if I've showed this before. This has been in bloom for a little bit. This is Wilsonaria space mine, red rendezvous. Nice little red orchid, a little bit past its prime. We've seen this Loud 9 hybrid from Sunset Valley Orchids. And then we'll show you just a little miniature that is growing in a gravel tray, in a net pot, inside a clay pot, keep the moisture and humidity levels up. And this is Sigma Stylus radicans. Nice little small growing orchid with, let's see if we can focus in on these, some pretty little white flowers. And then last but not least, we'll take a look at a Tolumia that I've had Tolumias in bloom probably for the last year. There's always something blooming when you have Tolumias. And this one's growing under the ficus tree. And then we'll just finish out with Tillandsia secunda. You remember the flower spike that was developing throughout the year? Well, we're now starting to get the new plantlets developing at the ends of all of the branches of this 6 foot tall bloom spike. So I will have from this one plant probably, I don't know, 30, 40 young plants that will need to find a home. So a good reason to belong to an orchid society where you can donate your orchids to fellow members. So we'll end on Thanksgiving with a little view of a few more orchids that are in bloom. And we'll be back in December to show you a new crop of blooming orchids. Again, thanks for watching.